Asterisk, imagine building your dream business, only to have a power-hungry HOA tyrant try to shut you down. She throws every rule in the book at me, convinced she's untouchable. But what she doesn't know. Asterisk, I own the very land she lives on. Asterisk, and when she finds out, oh, it's too late. Stay till the end, because this is the ultimate revenge she never saw coming. Asterisk, the aroma of fresh espresso filled the air as Alex wiped down the counter of Grounds and Company, the cozy little cafe they had poured their heart and soul into. It wasn't just a coffee shop. It was a haven for freelancers, remote workers, and locals who wanted a good brew without the corporate sterility of a chain store. Business had been booming and most of the neighborhood loved it. Most of the neighborhood. Alex glanced through the wide front windows, past the neat row of tulips lining the walkway, and spotted her. Karen Lancaster. HOA president. Self-appointed queen of the cul-de-sac. The kind of woman who wore oversized sunglasses even in the shade and spoke in a tone that suggested she was always doing you a favor by acknowledging your existence. Karen stood on the sidewalk, arms crossed, watching the cafe like it had personally insulted her. Her lips were pursed so tight they could vacuum seal leftovers. Alex sighed. Great. What does she want this time? As if hearing their thoughts, Karen strutted toward the entrance, heels clicking against the pavement with unnecessary force. The cafe bell jingled as she pushed inside, taking exactly 3 steps before inhaling sharply like the air had personally offended her. Ah, she said, her voice dripping with manufactured politeness. I see you've expanded your hours. Again. Alex blinked. Yeah, added an extra hour in the evening. The remote workers love it. Asterisk. Asterisk. Karen's eyes flicked around the cafe as if searching for a violation of some unwritten law. Well, I hope you're aware that excess foot traffic is causing quite a disruption to the residents in the area. Alex leaned against the counter. You mean the residents who come here daily? Because Mrs. Patel literally just left with a croissant and a latte. Karen ignored that. And another thing, your lights. Alex tilted their head. Pie lights. Yes. They flicker at night. It's an eyesore. A nuisance. I've had multiple complaints. Alex frowned. That was new. Huh. No one's mentioned that before. Well, I am mentioning it. She sniffed, adjusting her silk scarf like a villain in a soap opera. As president of the HOA, I cannot allow this disturbance to continue. Alex exchanged a look with Jamie, their barista, who was valiantly trying not to laugh from behind the espresso machine. Karen, Alex said, voice steady, I'll look into the lights. But I'm running a legitimate business here. With full permits. And last I checked, the HOA has no jurisdiction over commercial properties. Karen's lips twitched, barely concealing a scowl. We'll see about that. With a huff, she spun on her heel and marched out, but not before muttering something about property values and unsightly signage. As soon as the door shut, Jamie let out a snort. I swear she wakes up every morning thinking, how can I ruin someone's day today? Alex exhaled. No kidding. But I'm gonna check the lights. If they're actually flickering, that's weird. That evening, after closing up, Alex stepped outside and squinted up at the cafe's signage. A soft glow from the string lights overhead gave the storefront a warm, inviting look. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Then just as they turned to leave, the lights flickered, Not just a casual blink. A rapid, erratic stutter almost like Morse code. Alex frowned. That's not normal. They walked closer, watching as the lights sputtered again before steadying. A weird hum buzzed through the air, not loud but noticeable. Then the street lamp across the road flickered too. A prickling sensation ran up Alex's arms. Hey, that's bizarre. Pulling out their phone, they typed a quick message to their electrician, Mark. Hey, got a weird flickering issue at the cafe. Can you check it out tomorrow? Might be nothing, but it's kind of freaking me out. Mark responded almost instantly. That's odd. No outages reported in your area. I'll swing by first thing in the morning. Alex pocketed the phone and took one last glance at the street. A feeling they couldn't quite place settled in their gut, something between unease and curiosity. They turned to head home. And behind them the lights flickered again. The next morning Mark arrived bright and early, toolkit in hand. He was a burly guy with a permanent 5 o'clock shadow and the kind of no-nonsense attitude that made him great at his job. So you're saying it's not just the cafe lights but the street lamp too? He asked, setting his coffee down on the counter. Alex nodded. Yeah. It wasn't a normal flicker, it was weird. Like rhythmic. Almost intentional. Mark raised a brow. That is weird. Alright, let's check the wiring. For the next hour he poked around the breaker panel, checked the outdoor connections and tested the circuits. Everything was perfectly fine. No power surges. No faulty wiring, he said, scratching his head. Honestly, your setup's clean. But I'll check the underground lines next. As Mark moved toward the back alley, Alex followed. The cafe was part of a small strip of commercial properties, with a shared utility space behind the buildings. Then they saw it. Near the electrical box, a fresh patch of disturbed soil. Like someone had been digging. Mark crouched, running a hand over the dirt. That's not normal. Alex's pulse quickened. Someone's been messing with the wiring? Mark exhaled sharply. Maybe. Or something else is going on. They both turned as a car passed by on the main road. Alex caught a glimpse of a familiar figure in the passenger seat. Blonde bob, oversized sunglasses, pursed lips. Karen. Their stomach dropped. Mark, Alex said slowly, eyes narrowing. What would happen if someone deliberately tampered with the electrical lines? Just enough to cause flickering but not enough to cause an outage. Mark's expression darkened. Depends on how much they knew what they were doing. If someone wanted to mess with your lights just to be annoying, it wouldn't be hard. But if they screwed up, he paused, lowering his voice. It could cause a fire. Alex's blood ran cold. They turned back to the disturbed patch of earth, dread creeping in like a shadow. Okay, Alex muttered. Now this is personal. Alex stood over the disturbed patch of earth, mind racing. Someone had messed with the wiring, and if Mark was right, it wasn't just a prank. It was dangerous. The lights flickering weren't just a nuisance. They could have been the first warning signs of an electrical fire. And Karen had been watching the cafe last night. Coincidence? Not a chance. Mark exhaled through his nose, shaking his head. Look, I can fix whatever's going on here, but I'd bet good money this isn't some random issue. Someone's been tampering with your power lines. Alex clenched their jaw. And I have a pretty good idea who. Karen Lancaster had been throwing petty complaints their way for months. First it was too much foot traffic. Then unauthorized signage. Now suddenly mysterious electrical issues? Alex straightened. Let's fix the wiring first. Then I'll deal with her. By the time Mark finished, the wiring was secured and the cafe lights were stable. Alex spent the next few hours reviewing security footage, hoping to catch Karen red-handed. But frustratingly, the alley's blind spots made it impossible to get a clear view of who had been near the electrical box. But that didn't mean Karen was off the hook. The next morning, an official-looking envelope arrived in the cafe's mail. Alex tore it open and immediately groaned. Key violation notice. Subject: unauthorized commercial disruptions and hazardous installations. Alex skimmed through the nonsense. The letter accused the cafe of contributing to power instability in the neighborhood, implying that their excessive energy consumption was affecting local homes. At the bottom, Karen's signature loomed like a villain's flourish. Jamie peered over Alex's shoulder. Wait, is she seriously blaming us for the electricity problems? Alex tossed the paper onto the counter. Not just blaming. She's trying to use this to shut us down. And sure enough, Karen strutted in moments later, acting like she hadn't just sent a passive-aggressive legal threat in the mail. Alex, she said, tilting her head in mock concern, I assume you received the notice? Alex crossed their arms. Yeah, I did. Pretty convenient timing, don't you think? Since someone was tampering with the wiring outside just last night. Karen gasped, clutching her pearls in the most over-the-top community theater performance Alex had ever seen. Tampering? Oh dear. That sounds terrible. If only your business wasn't putting such a strain on the neighborhood's power supply. Alex narrowed their eyes. Mark checked. My business isn't the issue. Karen gave a saccharine smile. Oh, I'm sure your electrician told you what you wanted to hear. But as HOA president, I have to consider all the residents. Do you? Or do you just hate the fact that this cafe exists? Karen's eyes flashed, but her smile never wavered. Regardless, the board will be reviewing your compliance. If we determine your business is a detriment to the community, we have the right to shut me down. Alex finished for her, raising an eyebrow. You don't have the authority to enforce anything on my business, Karen. You know that. For the first time, Karen's expression faltered. Alex leaned in slightly, voice steady. But let's say you did have a hand in tampering with my power lines. That would be illegal. Tampering with electrical infrastructure? That's a serious crime. Karen's nostrils flared. Are you accusing me of something? I don't know, Alex said, tilting their head. Should I be? For a second, Karen just stared. Then she scoffed. I'll be seeing you at the board meeting. With that, she spun on her heel and left, heels clicking against the tile. Jamie whistled low. She's mad now. Let her be, Alex muttered. She has no idea what she's up against. The HOA meeting was held in a sleek community clubhouse, one of those pristine buildings that looked like it had never been used for an actual event. Alex arrived early, taking a seat near the front as residents trickled in. Most were neutral, chatting amongst themselves. But a few people, particularly the Karen disciples, shot them icy glares. Then Karen arrived in full force. Dressed in a ridiculously over-the-top pantsuit, she marched straight to the head of the room, taking her place at the board table. She cleared her throat dramatically. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, we are gathered here to discuss a pressing issue affecting our neighborhood, the disruption and potential hazard caused by the Grounds and Company Cafe. Alex exhaled sharply. Oh, here we go. Karen flipped through some papers, then glanced up, her tone suddenly saccharine. Now, I want to make it clear. This is not personal. But as HOA president, it's my duty to protect the integrity of our community. Alex smirked. Not personal. You sent me a violation notice yesterday. You came to my shop this morning to threaten me. A few residents murmured, glancing at each other. Karen ignored them. The electrical issues affecting the neighborhood have mysteriously coincided with your business expanding. Our local grid is struggling. Alex shook their head. That's not true. My electrician checked. Your electrician? Karen scoffed. Hardly a neutral party. At that moment, the actual city electrician stepped forward from the back of the room. Alex grinned. Perfect timing. I was asked to investigate the power fluctuations in the area, the electrician said, unfolding a report. And after checking, the issue has nothing to do with Grounds and Company. The problem comes from an unauthorized underground modification. Someone tampered with the electrical lines. Gasps rippled through the room. Karen's face paled. The electrician continued, flipping to a specific page. In fact, the tampering occurred behind the commercial properties, near the HOA president's residence. Karen stiffened. Alex's smirk widened. Karen, you wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? Silence. Then Karen snapped. This is ridiculous. I am the victim here. I have done nothing wrong. The board members exchanged wary glances. One of them, a middle-aged man named Greg, coughed. Karen, this doesn't look good. Another member nodded. Yeah, and honestly, this feels like a personal vendetta against Alex. Karen's mouth opened and closed, face flushed with barely concealed rage. Greg turned to Alex. Look, the HOA overstepped here. We'll be dropping the violation notice. You're in the clear. A small cheer erupted from the residents. Karen, seething, slammed her folder shut. You're making a mistake. Alex stood, adjusting their coat. Oh no, Karen. The real mistake. They leaned in slightly, lowering their voice. Was thinking you could mess with me and get away with it. As they walked out, a single thought ran through Alex's mind. She has no idea what's coming next. Karen stormed out of the HOA meeting, her face a shade of red that could probably fry an egg. Alex watched her go, amused at how her perfectly curated composure had finally cracked. But they weren't done yet, not by a long shot. The moment Karen disappeared into the parking lot, Greg, one of the more reasonable board members, turned to Alex. I gotta say, he muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. I never liked Karen's way of handling things, but I didn't expect her to go this far. Alex smirked. Well, I've got one more surprise for her. Greg raised a brow. What do you mean? Alex pulled out their phone, opening a folder of legal documents. You see, there's something Karen never bothered to check before she started her little war. Greg peered at the screen, and as he read, his eyes widened. Wait, you own? Yep. Alex grinned. And she's about to find out. The next morning, Alex strolled into Karen's neighborhood, a pristine row of high-end townhomes just behind the cafe. It was a quiet, upscale area where the residents paid steep rent to live in what they thought was a homeowner's paradise. What most of them didn't realize was that they weren't actually homeowners. The townhomes, privately owned rental properties. And the landlord? Alex. It was a little-known fact, mostly buried in legal paperwork, but Alex's grandfather had acquired a large chunk of the land decades ago. Over time, the properties had been leased out to long-term tenants under a corporate management firm, meaning Karen and a handful of her most devoted HOA followers? They weren't owners. They were renters. And Alex? They held their leases in the palm of their hand. By mid-afternoon, Karen had received an official-looking letter hand-delivered to her doorstep. She tore it open with impatient fingers. Her eyes scanned the document and her jaw dropped. Notice of lease violation. To Karen Lancaster. Regarding multiple violations of lease terms, tenant harassment and unauthorized HOA enforcement on commercial property. The letter was polite, professional, but the message was crystal clear. Karen was in violation of her lease. If she continued her unlawful harassment and abuse of power, Alex had the legal right to terminate her lease and evict her from the property. Karen's hands shook as she reread the document. Then, as if possessed, she grabbed her phone and dialed the property management office. Yes, this is Karen Lancaster. I demand to speak to someone about this ridiculous notice I just received. Pause. Then the voice on the other end replied with chilling indifference. Ms. Lancaster. Yes, we've been expecting your call. Your lease is owned by Grounds and Company. Holdings, AG. If you have any concerns, you should take it up with your landlord. Karen nearly dropped the phone. Why what? The woman continued cheerfully. Oh, didn't you know? Your landlord is Alex, the owner of the cafe. Have a great day. Karen stood frozen, phone still clutched in her trembling hand. Alex. Alex was her landlord. Her stomach twisted into a knot of pure, unfiltered horror. She had spent months trying to destroy their business. She had threatened, harassed, and weaponized the HOA against them. No. They could evict her. Karen sprinted out of her house. She had to find Alex. Alex was sipping a latte behind the counter when the cafe doors slammed open. You. The entire cafe fell silent as Karen stormed inside, wild-eyed and furious. Alex took one slow sip of coffee, then set their cup down with a smirk. Well. They leaned on the counter. If it isn't my favorite HOA president. Karen's hands shook as she pointed a manicured finger. You're my landlord? Alex tilted their head. Surprised? I figured you, of all people, would know who owns property in this neighborhood. Karen's breath hitched. Why, you can't just. Oh, but I can. Alex folded their arms. Let me remind you, Karen. You don't own your townhouse. You rent it. And as your landlord, I have the right to enforce the lease agreement you signed. The color drained from Karen's face. You've harassed multiple residents, issued fraudulent fines, and illegally tried to interfere with my business, Alex continued smoothly. All of which violate your lease terms. Karen swallowed hard. You wouldn't. Alex held up the lease violation notice. One more infraction, Karen. Just one more. And I file for eviction. A strangled sound escaped her throat. You tried to shut me down, Alex said, voice dropping to a whisper. But you never realized. I own the ground you stand on. Karen's lip quivered. Alex took a step closer, lowering their voice so only she could hear. So tell me, Karen. They smirked. Are you ready to lose everything? Silence. Karen stood completely defeated. And for the first time ever, she had nothing to say. Within a week, Karen resigned from the HOA in disgrace. Within a month, she sold her furniture, packed her bags, and left the neighborhood. No farewell party. No tearful goodbyes. Just a disgraced tyrant retreating in shame. And as for Grounds and Company, business had never been better. Residents loved the cafe. Without Karen's constant interference, the HOA actually supported small businesses and the entire neighborhood thrived. One afternoon, as Alex enjoyed their coffee, Greg strolled in, grinning. Gotta say, he chuckled, I didn't think I'd see the day Karen backed down. Alex smirked. What can I say? You mess with the landlord. They took a slow sip. You get evicted. Karen was gone. The neighborhood was free. And yet Alex felt like the story wasn't quite over. Not until they had a little fun. The cafe was packed that morning. Locals chatting, freelancers typing away on laptops, the smell of fresh espresso filling the air. It had been a month since Karen had been forced out, and in that time the community had transformed. Without her constant meddling, the HOA had softened. Businesses were thriving, people felt relaxed, and the absurd fines and nitpicking had disappeared. Jamie slid up to the counter, grinning. "You see the group at table 3? Alex followed her gaze. An older couple and a younger woman sat in the corner, chatting over lattes. At first, nothing seemed unusual, until Alex recognized the very specific way the woman stirred her coffee. Slow, precise, methodical. A signature Karen move. "Wait," Alex whispered, eyes narrowing. "That's Karen's daughter," Jamie confirmed. Alex stilled. Karen's only daughter, Veronica, had moved out years ago, far away from her mother's tyrannical grip. In fact, rumor had it she barely spoke to her. And now, here she was, enjoying coffee in the very shop her mother had tried to destroy. Jamie leaned in. "So, do we say something?" Alex smirked. "Oh, I think we absolutely say something." 5 minutes later, Alex casually approached the table. "Hi there. How's everything today?" The older couple smiled warmly. "Wonderful. This place is lovely." Veronica nodded. "Yeah. First time here, but I've heard so much about it." Alex chuckled. "Oh, from anyone I'd know." Veronica snorted. "Probably. My mom, Karen Lancaster? She used to live around here." Alex put on their best "oh, how interesting" face. "Karen, well, what a character." Veronica rolled her eyes. Understatement of the century. The older woman, Karen's sister apparently, sighed. "Honestly, we warned her. Told her she couldn't just bully people forever. And yet," she gestured vaguely, "she had to learn the hard way." Alex tried to keep a straight face. "Yeah, I heard she moved out pretty suddenly." Veronica laughed. "Oh, she didn't move. She was practically chased out. That whole HOA president thing? Yeah, I knew it'd come back to bite her." Alex took a slow sip of their coffee. "Crazy how things work out." Veronica smirked. "I gotta say though, she hated this place. So the fact that it's still here and doing great." She raised her cup in a toast. "Kinda perfect." Alex clinked their mug against hers. "Couldn't agree more." With Karen gone, the community thrived. The cafe was busier than ever. The HOA had restructured under actual reasonable leadership, and businesses around the area flourished. Alex even made one final move. They formally changed the ownership name on the rental properties. Now, when tenants received their lease renewals, they came from Grounds and Company, Holdings LZ, and attached was a special note. "We value our community and the people in it. No hidden fees. No absurd fines. Just a great place to live." The tenants loved it. Karen, well, wherever she was now, Alex hoped she saw it. And that every time she passed a coffee shop, she thought of them. One evening, Greg stopped by the cafe. "You know," he said, sipping his drink, "I heard Karen's trying to pull the same HOA stunt in her new neighborhood." Alex raised a brow. "You serious?" "Oh yeah. She tried running for HOA president again." Alex grinned. "And?" Greg grinned back. "She lost. By a landslide." Alex leaned back, taking in the sweet, delicious taste of justice. "Well," they said, lifting their cup, "here's to karma." "At what point did you realize Karen was doomed? Were you surprised by the landlord twist, or did you see it coming? Do you think Karen got what she deserved, or was it too harsh? Have you ever dealt with an HOA or a Karen in real life? How did it go? If Karen hadn't messed with the electrical lines, do you think she still would have been taken down? What do you think Karen will do next in her new neighborhood? How do you think Alex's cafe helped strengthen the neighborhood? What's your favorite local business that brings people together like Grounds and Company did? Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this crazy HOA revenge story, make sure to like this video. It helps a ton. Smiling face with sunglasses. Drop a comment below. What was your favorite moment? Have you ever dealt with an HOA nightmare like this? I want to hear your stories. And don't forget to subscribe for more epic tales of entitled people getting what they deserve. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. Oh, and if you really want to make a Karen mad, Share this video with a friend. Face with tears of joy. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Stay awesome.